Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. Got this 2002 Ford Explorer Sport Trac here today. It's got the 4-liter in it, 4-wheel drive. It's about 220 some odd thousand miles on it too. And it came in last week, I think it was. No, yeah, it was last week. So yeah, about a week ago. At any rate, the guy had dropped it off, and he was having and has been having some problems with some intermittent stalling, but very occasionally, you know, a couple times through the week. Drives to his work, goes to get off the highway, lets off the gas, you know, coasts up the extra ramp, gets to the top, car stalls, pops at neutral, immediately starts back up, no engine light, no drivability problems, no nothing. He might go to the next stop sign, it might stall there, it might not. Engine might idle right down, chuggle a little bit like it's gonna stall, and then flare back up. And then, you know, it might be fine for the next several days. So he wanted me to look at it. I grabbed, you know, the scan tool the other day, give him the benefit of the doubt, took it, drove it, monitored some data PIDs, just to see what it was doing and to see if I could duplicate the problem, you know, to help this guy out. And, you know, you drive and drive and drive and you look at stuff and, you know, you check some preliminary, you know, visual inspections. You know, we're looking at fuel trims, we're looking at the idle air control valve, we're checking to see, you know, does EGR stay stuck open, you know, when he comes to a stop, then make it stall. Oh gosh, you know, there's so many things that can make an engine stall. So we look at all the, you know, pretty much all the basics. I'll be honest with you, the thing ran like a top. I mean, it never even, you know, chuggled one time. So I guess with that being said, I was fiddling with some stuff. You check TSBs, you know, you use your scanner, your bidirectional controls, and you open and close the EGR valve, you know, and to kind of gather some information. You know, can the EGR valve make it stall? Well, in this case, no, it couldn't. I could open at 100% duty cycle. The engine ran like crap, but I could never get it to stall. So, you know, that rules that out. You come out under the hood, you give it, you know, after you've checked some stuff, you give it the wiggle test. You know, you just kind of look at things and, you know, wiggle some harnesses and see if you can duplicate it. But, you know, in this case I couldn't. But one thing I did notice, and you know, I was talking to Ivan about this on the phone too, is when I was checking the idle air control valve, checking its function, you know, its ability to control its commanded value, when it would get down around, if I remember right, the other day when it was in like 30% or 40%, it would stall the engine. And with that many miles on it, it kind of, you know, leads me to believe, and you know, Ivan also thought that, you know, perhaps, you know, the throttle body's, you know, really coked up, and, you know, the idle air control, let's say for example he pulls up to a stop sign, idle air control dips down to, you know, 30-40% as the RPMs come down, maybe hangs slightly, and then all of a sudden, you know, tries to flare up, and it's, you know, it's too late, stalls the engine. So at any rate, the purpose of this video, we're going to plug the scan tool in. We're going to see if we can duplicate that problem. If we call it a problem, we're going to, you know, take the idle air control valve. We're going to run it down to a low value, see if the engine does stall, check out the condition of the throttle body, clean the throttle body, and then recheck the values of where the idle air control valve is positioned. You know, normal, warm engine, idle, which if I remember right, it was in like the mid 40 to 50 percentile. And then we'll clean the throttle body and see if the idle air control valve moves to a more closed position, you know, giving it kind of more of a latitude of adjustment. And then we'll give the vehicle back to the customer to let them drive it and see if the stalling problem persists. And if it does, this is you know, a value we can take out of the equation, because we know it's not, you know, caused from a dirty throttle body. And I hope that makes sense. But a lot of times when we do intermittent diagnosis, or, you know, things like this, we can't reduplicate the problem, but it is a real problem that really happens, you know, short of just driving this thing for hours and days, is, you know, you can do something simple like this. You know, is mass airflow dirty? You know, it's quick, it's easy, it doesn't cost anything other than time. One thing you don't ever want to do is just start hanging parts on it. Once you sell a customer a part, you just married that car. You're going to own that thing till the day you figure out the problem. And in this case, this is, you know, simple maintenance item. It makes sense. You know, it's a plausible repair, and you didn't really put any parts on it. So that's kind of where we're at. truck warm up a little bit. I just put some transmission cooler lines on it. We'll get the vehicle information entered here, kind of take our initial reading, and then, you know, kind of our before and after. Double check. Didn't have any codes when it came in the other day. You know, again, no codes. Didn't expect anything any different. So what we're going to do, I know it's not warmed up all the way. We're going to go to this idle speed command. Let's see if we can get up here what we want to look at. Oh, let's see. Yeah, that should be good enough. It wasn't having any fuel trim issues or anything the other day when it came in. So we can look at our idle air control valve here. Let me give her a little throttle. Now we can see we're definitely not warmed up, but that may not matter too much to us. But we can see here, you know, our idle air control valve is hanging around 57%, so that's a good ways open. I can't really say that I know a normal. I would expect it lower than that. I'm gonna guess 20s to 30 percentile. Not a pit I pay a ton of attention to, I'll be honest with you. But I do remember, I think if we dip this thing down, it doesn't like going down to 40%. And I would think that, you know, with a clean throttle body, it would continue to run, you know, with just the airflow going past the throttle plate. But I think this thing's bypassing more air than it really should be. We can see it dropped our RPM right down there low. We can see our idle air control valve is responsive. Get down to 40. We get down to 30 and it really doesn't like that. If we put it in gear, it'll definitely stall. This thing's barely running. And at 20, that's the end of the story. So we're gonna take and, oh man, what's that? What the heck size is that? We're gonna get down to this throttle body. So I get out my mini socket here. 7. There we go. We're gonna have a look at it and see. This may be totally normal. We might be way off on our thinking here, but we've got to have a look. Make an effort of it here. Attached. Oh, she looks a little dirty. So here's our throttle body, obviously. Up top, we have our idle air control valve, which bypasses air through a port up here in the top of the throttle body, which you can't really see with this camera angle. But we can see this throttle plate is super nasty, and there's actually usually an amount of air that will bypass the actual throttle plate, you know, so that way it's not forced to all go through the idle air control valve up here. So what we're going to do is just simply clean the throttle body, not a huge process. This little guy's plastic, so you want to make sure whatever cleaner you use on it is plastic safe. And I think in this case, I may, instead of cleaning it on the vehicle, I may just take and yank this thing off real quick. That way we don't have to worry about getting all the crap in the intake and listen to this thing puke and cough when we start. Take and just unhook our, oh yuck, that throttle cable's looking a little bit gross. Well, I may change my mind here. That thing looks pretty dang corroded. Wow. This is where a simple job could get kind of ugly. We're gonna tap on the. There we go. I think we just broke the corrosion free. There we go. Yeehaw, we win. Well, they've got a half a mile of tape on that. I got that thing taped up real good. Must be it keeps the wiring harness from going in the fan, I assume, or something. Oh my gosh, I'm stuck. Man, they use like these big self-tapping wood screws. Let's get a ratchet to get those bottom two out. I like Fords, they got built-in little parts trays here. I don't know, I'm not saying anything, I'm just making an observation. Let's see. I'm a little tight on time on this one. They're supposed to be picking this thing up in about a half an hour. But I really wanted to do this just for my own sake of knowing. There we go. We got a reusable gasket, so we're not real worried about that. We do, however, have to get it out of there because I don't want to get it all slathered up with, you know, the seafoam. But look how gross that thing is. You can actually feel it catching a little bit when you go to open it. So let's go scrub this little guy out and then retest our theory, see where the idle air control valve, and this is where the idle air control valve bypasses its air. So normally air flows past the throttle plates. If the engine needs, you know, more or less air, depending on engine load, it bypasses through this hole, you know, via the idle air control valve right here in this opening. And this thing gets pretty gross because you see the EGR valve dumps right here, and you know, also things get hot, and I think the technical term is throttle body coking. So I don't know why, I didn't make it up. Alright, here we are out at the parts washer, and what I have found, when in doubt, words of wisdom here, on carb cleaners, you don't know if the throttle body's, you know, coated with its special coating, and it can't take the I don't know, I say the regular carb cleaner seafoam. Seafoam's pretty mild, however it does a spectacular job on cleaning carbon, I guess, as it's designed to do. Jeez. So that's why I usually choose to use that. And you want to go get your favorite little toothbrush, and I'll simply pour some in there, and really the rest is history. Just kind of do what you got to do. But you'll see that the seafoam works extremely well. Now, if you accidentally put in something you're not supposed to, and it takes off this special coating or whatever it is and allows the throttle body to bypass more air than it should, Now you're going to be buying another throttle body because typically the idle air control valve won't be able to overcome that by closing because it can only block off so much air. And then you're up the creek, I should say. But we can see here, we're starting to get some color back to this throttle plate. I'm going to continue on my scrubbage. So you can see that whole process is pretty easy. I'll just finish wiping it off. I think we got it pretty clean. Whoa, the springs are so powerful. Kind of tricky to hold, but like I say, if it was a metal throttle body and I knew it wasn't coated, I'd use some good old classic carbon choke cleaner, and of course a little bit of brake clean. But on this, better safe than sorry. Just gonna wipe that off where it goes. Gonna wipe off our gasket here a little bit. Kinda like these gaskets. They're always reusable until they're not. Then you gotta get a new one. So we'll put this back on. We'll get her all torqued down. Hook our cables back up, our throttle position, get our mass airflow sensor hooked back up. And then redo our test to see if we've made some improvement, no improvement, a little improvement, or we completely screwed it up. And now we have to buy a new throttle body. Get my fingers to work. Plastic. Why is everything plastic? Plastic throttle body, plastic intake. Now we got to use wood screws to put stuff together. Okay. When I was a kid, everything was made out of cast iron. Well, it's probably true, but they also didn't run 200,000 miles with little or no maintenance. So, it's probably not a bad thing. It's just something we can't change. Let's see. There we go. Let's redo our test. Now when we start this thing, it may hit a high RPM because it's going to go off its, off its learned memory. And it should quickly recover. But some cars, when you clean a throttle body, like particularly an electronic throttle body, oh man, if you don't do a relearn procedure with them things will idle high for an hour and gradually come down. Particularly on the GMs, those things are, they're a disaster to clean a throttle body on. But we just do an idle relearn and kind of get it back to where it was. Where we were. We'll probably have to repick our data again, I assume. air control valves around 50%. There. We're down to 10%. Now we're down to 0. So our idle air control valve is fully closed, and this would be, you know, what would be considered our bypass air. Now we'll let the, what we'll do on this Ford, I think on a Ford, let's see, I don't know if we have any minimum airflow tests or not here. Might be thinking of a Chrysler. You know, all we have is function test. Yeah, all we can do is change it, right? Make sure I'm not missing this completely. So on a Ford, if we reset the keep alive memory, I believe it would reset our learned idle. I think, I'm not positive on that. But we'll see here as the engine starts to kind of take control and relearn. We'll go back and look at this value, see where it was. What was it when we started? 60%, something like that. Oops. Dang it. I get click happy. See where we're at. I missed something here. Anyhow, look at the difference we have here. Do we have a desired idle? Was that in here? Max fault, probably not. RPM desired. There we go. That way we can still make sure we're in the realm of realm of where we should be. There's our desired. I'll leave that like that. So our desired is 656. Let me get a min-max. It's going to take it a little while to kind of relearn itself. You can see our idle air control valve, you know, slowly coming back down. Our desired is 656. Right over here. Oh, yeah, it's real close. I mean, this thing's within, you know, 10 RPMs either side of the desired. You know, we're 650 to 670, we'll say, average. That's good. We can't ask for much better than that. Yeah, we can see with bypass air, it still just can dip below the desired, dips down to about 600. That's wonderful. We still got to hook our cables up here to the throttle body, but we can see what we would consider our idle screw. So this would be our, you know, our base idle screw on this vehicle. We could actually look that spec up where we close the idle air control valve all the way and set the minimum airflow RPM by adjusting that screw. You know, you'll look out here on your emissions label and it tells you, you know, not adjustable, C manual. We could certainly look that up. But it's never been tampered with as far as I know, so we're just going to leave it. But I think it's real obvious based on our test here and our test results. That we have a confirmed fix, and the idle air control valve seems to be very responsive. You can see it running at 22%. That's wonderful. I was thinking it should be around, I don't know what I said initially, I was thinking, you know, 20-30% was kind of the norm. See how it responds. it's able to achieve the desired RPM. I think it's a confirmed repair. I guess we call it that. Well, there we go. That was a fun little test. Now it's a pretty short video. It kind of shows, you know, cleaning the throttle body, what kind of changes you can have, and it also shows that it is plausible, you know, if the idler control valve was to go too low or stick low, that it could have caused this guy's symptoms, which, you know, symptoms were stalling. And the good news is, if it doesn't fix it, no big deal, because we got hardly anything into it other than some time, so we're not too concerned or worried about it. But it is a variable that we can take out of the equation now, because we know the idler control valve works, we know the throttle body's clean, we know what it's not. Sometimes to figure out what something is, you have to figure out what it's not, and kind of narrow it down that way. There we go. There you have it, viewers. Quick and dirty, super easy repair. I don't know if we can call it a repair, but good assumption, and we're able to see that once the throttle body's clean, that it can bypass enough air to keep itself running, and that's one thing that we can take out of the equation now on this intermittent stalling problem, and a good possibility that it may fix it. But if it doesn't, oh well, we know what it's not. Like I said, sometimes that's a really valuable piece of information, and it's just as easy to give this thing back to customer and let them drive it than it is, you know, us driving it aimlessly until the problem becomes more persistent. And you don't want to hang parts on it. Never hang a part on it. Always verify it. And always be careful before you go douching her down with some carbon choke cleaner or brake cleaner, which doesn't cut carbon very well. If you're going to cut carbon, you need carbon choke cleaner, throttle body cleaner, special throttle body cleaner, seafoam, something like that really cuts carbon. But make sure you know what you're working on. You know, don't put it on plastic, then all of a sudden have the plastic disappear on you, and then you got nothing. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Check us out on Facebook and Google+. Leave some comments below if you want to kind of carry on a conversation or what your methods are on intermittent stalling problems and how you like to go about solving those and what your methodology is there, and we'll get some good conversation going. So, just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.